Here's example 2 of using the half-angle formulas to evaluate trig expressions. So here we're going to evaluate the cosine of 5 pi over 8. Okay? So we're using half-angle formulas, so the idea is to say, okay, 5 pi over 8 is half of something, so it's half of what? Okay, half of what? So if we multiply both sides by 2, then what we get is 5 pi over 4 equals question mark. Okay, so that's what this question mark is. So right here, question mark is 5 pi over 4. So then really 5 pi over 8 equals 1/2 of 5 pi over 4. Okay, so we're going to use a half-angle formula for cosine where the alpha is 5 pi over 4. Okay, so then cosine of 5 pi over 8 equals cosine of 1/2 times 5 pi over 4. Okay. So if we go back to our formula sheet here, and if you want to copy this formula sheet, check the video description. There's a link in there. You can click that link, get a copy of this. So we're going to use this half-angle formula right here. Cosine of alpha over 2 is plus or minus the square root of 1 plus cosine alpha all over 2. So what's alpha? Well, here we have the 1/2, that's the over 2 part. So then everything that's left over is the alpha. So 5 pi over 4, that's our alpha. So 5 pi over 4, this right here is going to be our alpha. Okay. So then when we use the half-angle formula here, we have plus or minus the square root of 1 plus cosine alpha all over 2. Square root of 1 plus cosine, and then alpha is 5 pi over 4. And then all over 2. Okay? Okay, so now, are we taking the plus sign or the minus sign? So remember, we got to be very careful. Here, the sign, plus or minus sign, is determined by the quadrant of alpha over 2. So we have to figure out which quadrant is alpha over 2 in. Is it in the first quadrant, second quadrant, third, or fourth quadrant? And then based on that, we can tell, okay, we're going to take the plus or the minus sign. So, and remember, be very careful. We have to know where's 5 pi over 8, not where's 5 pi over 4. Okay, not where is alpha. We have to know where's alpha over 2, because it's cosine of alpha over 2 that's positive or negative, whatever this is. Okay, so we have to know, okay, the positive and negative sign is going to be determined by the quadrant of alpha over 2, the quadrant of the thing that we're taking the cosine of. Okay, and here we're taking the cosine of alpha over 2, so we have to know what quadrant alpha over 2 is in. Okay, so 5 pi over 8. So something over 8, well, first of all, if we set up a little quadrant chart here, xy plane, here's 0, pi over 2 puts us up here, pi is over here, 3 pi over 2 is down here, right? So we start at 0, go around to pi over 2, around to pi, around to 3 pi over 2, and then back all the way around to 2 pi, okay? Now we want to know where's 5 pi over 8. So it's going to be easier to determine that if we can put everything over 8. So let's write this like this, pi over 2. Okay, so if we put all these angles over 8, it's going to be a little bit easier to see what's happening. So multiply, so 0 is still just 0. Pi over 2 multiplied by 4 over 4, that's 4 pi over 8. 5 pi over 8 is just a little bit bigger than 4 pi over 8. Okay, how about pi multiplied by 8 over 8, and then that's going to be 8 pi over 8. 5 pi over 8 is smaller than 8 pi over 8. So then what we actually have here is 4 pi over 8 is less than 5 pi over 8, which is less than 8 pi over 8. Okay? Or in other words, pi over 2 is less than 5 pi over 8 is less than pi. Okay, if we simplify everything. So 5 pi over 8 is between pi over 2 and pi. So wherever 5 pi over 8 is, we don't really know exactly where it is. Well, we kind of can figure it out, but it's going to be a little bit just past here, just past this positive y-axis right here, just past pi over 2. So this right here is going to be approximately 5 pi over 8, but we don't really care about that. All we care about is what quadrant is it in, and we see 5 pi over 8 is just barely a little bit into the second quadrant here. Okay, again, because here's pi over 2, which is 4 pi over 8. Here's pi, which is 8 pi over 8. So 5 pi over 8 is between those two. So 5 pi over 8 is between pi over 2 and pi. So 5 pi over 8 is in quadrant 2. Okay. Now since 5 pi over 8 is in quadrant 2, so let's write this out. 5 pi over 8 is in quadrant 2. So cosine of 5 pi over 8 is negative, right? If you're in quadrant 2, your cosine is negative. So remember we talked about that a long time ago in an earlier video. 5 pi over 8 is in quadrant 2, which we just found out here, and that means that the cosine of 5 pi over 8 has to be negative. So what that means is cosine of 5 pi over 8 is blah 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 equals plus or minus square root of this. we're going to take the negative square roots, because cosine of 5 pi over 8 has to be negative, because 5 pi over 8 is in quadrant 2. Okay, so that's how we determine which SIGN sign to use. Okay, we just have to think about, all right, which quadrant is this angle in? And sometimes it might be helpful to think of, okay, 0 pi over 2, pi 3 pi over 2, and 2 pi. It might be helpful to put them all over the same denominator as this angle is over here, okay? As your alpha over 2 is. Okay, so let's erase this to make more room. All right, now from here it's just a matter of knowing the unit circle and simplifying and some arithmetic and things like that. Okay, so then this equals negative big ol' square root, then we have 1 plus cosine of 5 pi over 4, so that's, again, this is just a matter of knowing the unit circle. So cosine of 5 pi over 4 is going to be negative root 2 over 2. All right, and then we're still dividing by 2 here. So this equals now negative, okay, so this 1 plus minus, that just becomes minus, and then also with the 1 here, let's get a common denominator here, so we can say, okay, let's multiply by 2 over 2. So that's going to be 2 over 2, and then plus minus becomes minus root 2 over 2, all divided by 2. Okay. So then this is going to equal, still have a minus sign out there, then we have the square root of 2 minus root 2 all over 2, okay, and then still dividing by this 2 down here. Okay, so then this equals, still a minus sign outside of the square root. Now what we have is 2 minus root 2 all over 2, and then divided by 2. So that's 2 minus root 2 all over 2 multiplied by a half. So if you divide something by 2, it's like multiplying that thing by 1/2, by the reciprocal of this. Okay? So dividing by 2 is like multiplying by a half, and then what we have is negative square root of 2 minus root 2 all over 4. Okay? And then we'll show some details here that we skipped in the last video. So this is going to be the square root of the top minus the square root of, or sorry, divided by the square root of the bottom. Okay, and the square root of 4 is just 2, so then what we have is negative square root of 2 minus root 2 divided by 2. Okay, we got to be very careful about where the sign is and how far this bar goes. So the square root is entirely on the top, the minus sign is affecting everything, and this is our final answer here. Negative square root of 2 minus root 2, all divided by 2. So that's the answer for here, evaluate cosine of 5 pi over 8. So it is kind of cool that we can get an exact number. Okay, this is an exact number, right? It's not an approximation, no decimal approximation, nothing like that. It's an exact value, it's an exact number here. And it is kind of goofy looking, kind of crazy, but that's what's nice about these half-angle formulas here, is, you know, we can use these to evaluate things like this. Okay. So anyway, that's example 2 with using half-angle formulas, evaluate cosine 5 pi over 8. And again, here's our answer, negative root 2 minus root 2 all over 2.